welcome to an episode of Rediscovered Movies. I'm your host, Nomfanelo Malloy. So today I am joined by a special guest. He is a stand-up comedian and he hosts a podcast called Under the Tree. So please welcome Ian Brice.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
It's great, and it's nice to have you here on the podcast. So, the film we'll be talking about today is a fun one, which is The Great White Hype. So, The Great White Hype is a 1996 sports comedy film. It is directed by Reginald Hudlin, who's known for films such as House Party and Boomerang. It is written by Ron Shelton, who's known for White Men Can't Jump, and Tony Hendra, who's known for Spitting Image. The film stars Samuel L. Jackson, Damon Wayans, and Peter Berg. So here is the synopsis. When the champ's promoter, Reverend Sultan, decides something new is needed to boost the marketability of the boxing matches, he searches and finds the only man to ever beat the champ. The problem is that he isn't a boxer anymore, and he is white. However, once
Mm.
Reverend Sultan convinces him to fight, he goes into heavy training while the confident champ takes it easy and falls out of shape. So the film was released in theaters on May 3rd, 1996. It made over $7.8 million domestically. It opened number 5 with 3.3 million. It was beaten by films including The Craft, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, and The Quest. In terms of critical reception, it has a 2.8 rating on Letterboxd. And at the time of this recording is available on demand, so check your local provider. Okay, so we could get into first discoveries. So Ian, do you want to start?
Sure, never heard of this movie, but it had so many big names in it. I was like, what? Samuel L. Jeff Goldblum is in there, Damon Wayne, Jamie Foxx. I was like, why have I not heard of this? But I do identify as black. I have people constantly trying to take my black card from me because I haven't seen a lot of black cinema. But would you consider this one of those like a black African movie? I mean, we did see Dolomite references. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like yeah, once you see that, it's like okay, this is a black movie. But I
hmm
thought, that was my first discovery. So my first discovery was earlier today. That was really.
And how did you find the movie overall?
Overall, I thought it was entertaining. I'll go into it later, but I really hate the ending. But besides that, I think overall it held my attention. It entertained me. Good show.
Okay. So for me, I remember like having the VHS tape of it growing up. So like I remember I'd watch it throughout the years during my childhood. So I don't really remember my first thoughts of it. I just remember, oh, it's a boxing movie and Samuel L. Jackson is in it. So rewatching it now, I find like it's as a comedy, it's entertaining, but I think it tries to be a satire, which for me fails on
Yeah.
that front. But I had it was enjoyable to watch, and I thought as a boxing movie, it's entertaining. I'm not a huge boxing fan myself, but yeah, it was quite enjoyable, and I thought the cast did a solid job with their performances, and that's pretty much that, like for my overall thoughts. So we could get into the highlights, essentially what we liked about the movie. So do you want to start?
Sure. Let me see. Something I liked about the movie, like I said, the cast. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you can't go wrong with Jeff Goldblum, right? I mean, he transcends generations that people love him. Um, and I thought Jamie Foxx did a great job as comedic relief. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
basically, he's like, I am a comedian. I will be comedic relief. I will be as stupid as possible and continue to be stupid as possible. So I really did appreciate that commitment.
Yeah.
Um, oh, and
I
John
thought,
Lovitz too.
yeah, he was great. He was great. Sorry. For me, I don't really have too much to add for this section, but I will say the lines in this movie were quite funny. I liked when Samuel L. Jackson's character says, "I love you. You're my brother." Like he says that multiple times to Roper, like during the first act of the movie. I thought, yeah,
Yeah.
that was fun.
Yeah, and that was like a recurring joke about the brother thing. Like, I'm not your
Yeah.
brother. Don't call me brother. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, okay. All right. We can kill that a little bit now.
And also too, there was another part. I think it was during like the and I found the press conferences like they're very wild. Like for press conferences with all the shenanigans that happens during those press conferences. Like I thought it was
Yeah.
funny when at one point Terry he knocks out Shabazz because he like constantly wants to challenge Roper wants to be in the fight and all that stuff. So I thought that was funny. And then also too when Roper reveals like his beer belly essentially how much he gained weight.
Yeah, that part was the Shabazz thing was really crazy for me. Just
Yeah.
what was it was like every scene was the same of like I'm gonna be the heavyweight fighter. I'm gonna
Hmm.
fight you, and it's like okay, can we go somewhere else
Yeah.
with this, please, Shabazz? You say the same
Yeah.
thing every time you enter a scene.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but Jamie Foxx was there to save it with like him getting punched and passing out and being
Hmm.
shy in front of the camera, all those good things. So like, I'm glad that he was there to save it because I think if it was just Shabazz complaining about not getting a fight, that would have been really boring.
Yeah, yeah, it would have been much, yeah, for sure. I thought like as you mentioned, Dolomite. It's interesting that
Yeah,
that Roper watches that movie as like inspiration.
yeah, yeah. It wasn't really like it wasn't like actually explained. It just like I feel like white people or people who only do who know who Dolomite is, like they're just gonna be like, what? Like who? What does that mean? Like what's the cultural reference to Dolomite? I feel like that could have been
Yeah.
explained a little bit more.
Yeah, because like when I first saw this movie, like I didn't understand the Dolomite reference. I just thought it just was another like a black exploitation movie. And
Right,
of
right.
course, like now, like after watching Dolomite is my name, and then the original Dolomite movie, like I kind of like get that now. But I find it's hilarious that that movie was chosen, like given like the backstory of that movie. So. I thought that was an interesting choice.
Yeah, because I didn't feel like he was like a champion of like black people. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
Roper wasn't. He just like, whatever. It was kind of like a smarter Mike Tyson. Is felt like what they were going for, like to me.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much.
He said like the satire, like Samuel L. Jackson's like a form of Don King, right? I mean, and
Hmm.
then we have him with his like, but they kept talking about Mike Tyson too. So I'm like, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
you are rooting the satire then if we're gonna keep referencing
Hmm.
Mike
Hmm.
Tyson as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought the music for me was fine. Like it was nice to see Method Man performing his song during Roper's entrance for the final fight.
Okay, yeah, that part that was he was like lip syncing badly. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't know if he was just like I'm like, do you not know your own words to your own song? Oh, that part that was a little confusing, but I mean, the music was absurdly good. I mean, it
Yeah.
was. I mean, do we have a soundtrack that we can look up? Like, remember that CD's soundtrack? Is there one for Great White Hype? Because I feel like that would be great.
I'm sure there is. I'm sure there is. But yeah, I don't really have much else to add, like except yeah, like it has its funny moments here and there, and I thought some of the lines were funny, but other than that, I don't really have much to add for the highlights. Is there anything else you want to add?
I thought it was quite the choice that our Irish fighter, or Irish fighter who wasn't really Irish, that he just kept referencing homelessness.
Yeah.
I'm doing this all
Yeah.
for homelessness, and I hate racism.
Hmm.
That so I thought that was an interesting choice for, I mean, who would be the antagonist in this movie? Really? I guess I have that question. Who do you think that would
I
even
have no
be?
idea. I have no idea. I mean, we could get into that for the lowlights
Okay.
section, but I mean, you could say that everyone is their own worst enemy. I don't know, but
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good then on the positive side.
yeah. So yeah, let's get into the lowlights. So yeah, I think the main thing for me is that it was a struggle. Like was this meant to be a comedy or was this meant to be a satire? Because as I mentioned, it has its like funny moments, but as a satire, like I just didn't like get what was the main message it was trying to point
Right.
across, because it seems like they want to show how like everyone in this movie are either like sellouts or hypocrites or crooks essentially, or all of the above, and all they care about is money and all that stuff. But then also too, they want to highlight this whole thing like with the race tension.
Yeah. Right. The race
So
war. Right.
yeah, so I didn't really get, as a satire, it just did not land for me on that front.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, especially at the our ending here, it's like, okay, what did we learn? What did we accomplish here? I'd say
Mm-hmm.
nothing,
Yeah,
really.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I had specific problems with like almost every character in there.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick an antagonist, I would assume it was going to be Samuel L. Jackson's character, right?
Yeah,
Because he was like
yeah.
kind of like a narcissist. You know,
Mm-hmm.
is an opportunist. Anything he saw that he could get a leg up on, he did.
Mm-hmm.
And then you know, because loving Jeff Goldblum, right? I didn't understand his character turn. Did you? Like, what inspired him to go? You know what? Forget
Yeah.
journalism. I'm doing this.
Yeah, because it seemed like his character is well, a freelance reporter, because he's
Yeah,
not working for like a CNN or ESPN or anything like
yeah,
that. Because essentially, he wants to expose the Reverend for being a fraud, essentially. But
yeah.
but I guess after the mano session, he just does a complete 180 and
Right. I
decides
hated
to.
that. I was really hoping that he would come back in the end, and be like, you know what? This is all like an undercover kind of thing. You know, I was hoping to do like some journalistic undercover thing, but it was not. It was not.
Yeah.
So disappointing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it was just, yeah, weird that they decided to work together, even though he still kind of hates him at the same
Yeah,
time. Like
right.
it just did not make sense.
Yeah, the that just felt rushed to me. Like, did we cut out like part of the script? You know, like we're like, oh, we got to end it now. Shooting is done.
Yeah. I don't know. And as you mentioned, the ending, like I thought that whole ending was weird, because essentially, like Roper, he wins the fight against Terry. I mean, expectedly, of course. And then all of a sudden, Shabazz is like, "Oh, I want to fight," and all that stuff.
Yeah,
And then they pull out the gun, and then they like have their little tiff, and then Shabazz knocks out Roper, and then all of a sudden the reverend's like, "Oh, like this is a preview of our
yep.
upcoming fight." And then he's like, "I love you," towards the camera, and then it cuts to this weird like after party sequence where everyone's dancing. So I was just like, "What is going on
Yeah, I
here?"
didn't get that. I feel like if they made Samuel Jackson's character white, it would have been just a little better. You know, like we can see how you know people often exploit people of color in sports. You know,
Mm-hmm.
to get that would make make more a little more sense to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
but like that, I just don't understand. Like, and then he just like it wasn't unfulfilling because he got away with everything. Like Samuel
Yeah.
Jackson's character was no consequences for
Mm-hmm.
anything he did the whole time.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, did you write this movie, Samuel L. Jackson? Because you really did come out on top from start to finish.
Yeah. And also too, as a low light, I thought it was weird, like for Roper to unexpectedly gain weight after the announcement of his fight with Terry. It just did not make sense,
Yeah.
because there was no hint of him being depressed or anything
Yes.
like that.
Right.
Like, sure, he was upset with Samuel L. Jackson for not paying him, whatever, but then he quickly changed his mind on that. So
Yeah, really low level fat jokes is what they just started going. Hey, fat boy, come on, fat boy,
Yeah.
fight me, fat boy.
Yeah. It just felt like they needed to give him an obstacle than to be having him being like the undefeated boxer and all that stuff. So
Yeah,
again,
but
I
we
don't
didn't
know.
even see the he killed, like he did a great job in the fight, regardless of his size. He like didn't even hold his belly or like, oh God, I'm really going slow. Like he murdered him basically. I mean,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, not great, not great at all.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought like that final fight between him and Terry was very short. Like it ended after
Mm-hmm.
one round, which does not make sense.
27 seconds, I think they said something
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. Like it should have been longer, but again, I don't know what happened
I
here.
saw when the last scene was come like there's only 10 minutes left. How are they gonna
Yeah,
get out
yeah,
of this? They just end it.
yeah. I don't
And
know.
there were just some other things like character things that weren't explored, like when we cut to the promos, Irish fighters like, oh, I'm homelessness, blah blah, and then we cut to him, Roper, and he's like, the journalist is like, oh, we see that you've give money to MS and AIDS and visit every children's hospital, and he's like,
Mm.
yeah, I do that. Cut, but it's like, okay, we know that he's a kind person, but we just want to leave it at that. That's I don't want to talk about being
Yeah,
nice.
yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, maybe like like as I mentioned, like I guess they want to show people they're either hypocrites or sellouts or a combo of those things. So
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Another lowlight I had was that opening scene where they showed the two scorpions fighting in
That's
the
the first thing
Nevada
on my list here
desert.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, because I felt I didn't understand what the meaning behind it was, other than to show two scorpions fighting. And then it was funny at one point they showed a close up of the Broham car, which they
Uh-huh.
made a big deal of at some
Yeah,
point in
kept
the
referencing the
movie.
maroon broham.
Yeah, yeah, and and then also too, like when they showed the titles, like they had like that punching effect for me was a bit much. So I didn't really get that whole bit. They could have just opened with like a montage of Vegas before the fight, essentially. But
Yeah, that. Oh, so I thought the scorpions. I thought we were in like for a good thing. Because I thought the scorpions were going to be like, okay, these two the individuals are fighting, survive, and then a car runs them over anyway. So I thought it was like
mm-hmm.
going to be like symbolism for like we said, the owner
Yeah,
of the establishment, the highest up, but really didn't really. Didn't really. I mean, because
yeah,
everything kind of worked out for everyone. You know what I mean? Like
mm-hmm.
everyone
Mm-hmm.
kind of left doing pretty
Yeah,
well.
yeah, yeah. And I guess the final note I have for this section is that I wondered how did Shabazz and Jamie Foxx and co manage to enter Sultan's house like with the guns with
Yeah,
that.
they're saying they have so many security guards, but they just walked in fully
Yeah,
full weapons. Yeah,
yeah. But I would say I thought it was funny that with Samuel Jackson's security guards, they had the guns with lasers. So.
yeah, right, right, right. They're advanced.
Yeah.
And that's an example too if they just put some comedy in because you remember they showed that they cut security guards and there's like they're just doing like a Michael Jackson dance for no
hmm
reason. Like one of them.
Yeah.
It's like
Yeah.
okay, who wanted to just do that? Like who's
Yeah. Yeah.
this will be random and funny. Okay, all right,
Mhm.
all right.
Mhm.
Some of the the comedy I would say hack bits, like round the fat joke, round is a shape. Ha ha ha. Okay, heard that a million times. And then come on, the black Muslim stuff, the Louis Farrakhan reference, like
Yeah.
basically like it's so 90s. It's so 90s with that.
Mhm.
It's like
Mhm.
we've heard that so many times.
Oh yeah.
And also getting our Irish fighter to start fighting again from his lovely life of being a musician who's kissing every girl he wants and has no money. And it's like, oh, I can. He's like that inspired by the homeless.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, yeah, sure, sure, yep, yep. Forget this whole. Yeah, I'll do it. To save the homeless. It's like what?
Yeah, that did not make sense, but
Yeah, yeah. That was a big one for me. Um, I did catch a gay joke in there. I don't know if you caught this one. Siegfried and Roy. Did you?
oh god, I don't remember that part.
It was
Like,
when John Lovitz went into. He's like, I'm gonna go take a sponge bath, and then they
okay,
get an off-screen bit where it's like, Roy, what are you doing standing behind Siegfried like that?
uh,
It's like, haha, boom, boom, boom. So we'll talk about that, I guess, if this holds up for today. We'll put that in that section.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So we
Yeah,
could,
that's it.
yeah. So, anything else you wanted
No,
to add?
I think that's it for the hate.
Okay, awesome. So we could get into the trivia. So I couldn't really find too much fun facts about this movie. So here's a bit that I was able to find. So according to, I think, an article on That Shelf, apparently the movie came hot on the heels of a much publicized joke of a real life fight between a fresh out of prison Mike Tyson and some random ass white guy named Hurricane Peter McNeely from Massachusetts, who
Okay.
probably had no business ever being in the ring with the former champ. McNeely got overhyped and threatened to wrap Tyson in a quote cocoon of horror, and white America lost their shit. That here was a clean cut white boy who was going to beat up a former prisoner and the badass man on the planet. Don King promoted the fight like it was Jesus fighting Satan with a broken glass taped to their fist in an Outback steakhouse. It was one of the highest grossing fights of all time, and it was over in less than 2 minutes.
Wow. I have
Interest.
no memory of that at all. How old are
Yeah.
you? May I ask? Because I feel like I was old enough to know the news. Like I remember when Mike Tyson bit that guy's ear off. What was it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I
with
remember that.
Holyfield, yeah.
Yes, I remember that. That part though, the white black never got on my
Yeah.
radar.
Yeah, this was news to me too, so I'm
That's
like, wow,
that's
that's
crazy.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. All
So
right.
yeah, so also Ron Shelton, who's the co-screenwriter of this movie, he has expressed his distaste for the movie because the script was completely revised by comedian Tony Hendra. He says, quote, I tried to get my name taken off it because the film they made was not the script I wrote. I find it a horrible movie.
Pretty to the point there. I mean, can we see the real script now? I feel like because it does feel like pasted copy. Like we said, there's no story. There's no art. There's no
Yeah.
ups downs. Like
Yeah, because if I were to guess, Ron Shelton wanted to make go more of this satirical route, but probably like when they got the other screenwriter, they say, you know what, we need to make this as a comedy. So probably that's why too. Like we kept seeing like that tension, like is it a comedy or is it a satire?
yeah, right,
So
right, right. Because some of
yeah,
it just kind of felt like a sitcom. Like ha ha ha. This is just a funny bit. It really
yeah.
doesn't push the story forward. We'll be doing something different next week when you tune in for our 30 minutes. It felt like a sitcom sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so another fun fact, apparently the lion's head entrance to the MGM Grand that was featured in the movie has since been removed because many Chinese gamblers avoided the casino or entered through the back entrance due to the feng shui belief that entering the mouth of the lion was bad luck.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
they got
that's it's interesting.
yeah, they gotta look into that. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. And a final note, the director, Reginald Hudlin, he cameoed as the last dancer in the closing credits of the movie.
I did not know that. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So, yeah, last question. Should this movie be rediscovered? I mean, I kind of have a feeling what we're going to say, but so you want to answer it?
So I used to doctor screenplays, punch them up, back in the day. So I really do enjoy writing. So, I really consider myself more of a writer than anything. So no, I don't. No, because there's no story. There's
Yeah.
no, this is like a reality TV show in a way. We're just
Mm-hmm.
watching you guys live your life, and that's it. We'll tune in. We'll tune in next week, see what other shenanigans you get into. But yeah, what
Mm-hmm.
about you?
Yeah, I'm on that same boat. Like, no, because it felt conflicting as to what this movie wanted to be at the end. But I would say, like, it does have its funny moments. Like, as I said, the cast do a good job with their
Mm-hmm.
performances, but just as a whole, it did not work for me. But
Yeah.
I would say, as a boxing movie, it's enjoyable. So I guess if you like boxing, check out this movie. But
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say, like, if you were to watch this, proceed with caution. That's all I'll say.
Honestly, and it just feels like newbie writing because there's like so many characters that we had that barely did anything.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the one white guy that was with Samuel Jackson and his crew? And then
Mm-hmm.
he had the lawyer, and then John Lovitz, and it's like, okay, how many people do we need to to really see, remember, and care about here?
Right,
You know.
right. Mm-hmm. So that pretty much concludes this episode of the podcast. So where can people find you, Ian?
Sure, I am Ian Brice, Brice with an I, 3000 on all platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. And you can check out my podcast on all platforms as well. It's called Under the Tree, The Murder of Shelley Carson. It's about one of my classmates that was murdered 19 years ago. Still a cold case.
That's good. And so for me, you can find me on I'm on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at Nomfanelo. You can find this podcast on Instagram, X, YouTube, and Linktree at RD Movies Pod. You can visit buymeacoffee.com/RD Movies Pod to donate. On Spotify app, you can answer the featured poll, you could leave a comment and rate the podcast. On Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review and rate the podcast. And you could submit questions, comments, and suggestions by email, which is rediscoveredmovies@gmail.com to be featured on the after show, which will air after the season finale. So, Ian, do you have any final notes you want to share?
Yes, go find a better comedy if you can with a good story arc. Also, Jamie Foxx, I remember you before they cloned you, and you were funny now. You were funny back then. So,
That's right. So,
yeah.
so thank you for tuning in, and catch you next time.